talked about what it means to be kids. And I don't mean kids in the sense of you're young, or we're young, but I'm a kid too. I'm someone's kid. Doesn't mean I'm childish. It means I'm someone's child. Okay? So he said, but that title is never really defined. We don't really know what it means to be a child. You don't ever get told how to do it. You grow up in a family and you just are a child. No one ever gave you child lessons. Okay? So what we're talking about today is we're talking about that next phase in life. Kind of after you go through the whole child phase, the next thing is relationships. It's one of the titles that we hold in our life. That's what we're walking through. Okay? The title of your boyfriend, your girlfriend. The problem is no one knows what that means. Okay? It can mean anything from we hook up once a week. It can anything from we're together every minute of the day. We're on different sides of the country and we're boyfriend and girlfriend. We're on different sides of the world and we're boyfriend and girlfriend. We've never even spoken before. We've just done instant messenger. They don't do that anymore, do they? But you know what I'm talking about? They go online or they meet through online websites, Christian Tingle, things of that nature. Whatever you want to call it. Find God's match for you because God really cares. God's like, you picked the wrong one. Don't ever listen to that commercial, okay? I mean, you can go on Christian Mingle, but don't be like, God has a match for me, and I need to find it. Okay? God's not playing hide and go seek with your spouse. Don't look under the bridge. He's not there. Okay, that's not what he's doing. So today, we're talking about the second part of that, which is boyfriend and girlfriend. So, the problem that kind of is at the core of everything, like I said, is we don't get taught how to do this. Okay, what does it look like? What's good? What's bad? And the problem with boyfriend and girlfriend, especially when it comes to people in the church, is because Scripture is so mute on the topic, we want to tell everyone what God is telling them to do through their relationship. Okay? So we go, oh, well, Scripture says that you're supposed to treat your boyfriend or girlfriend this way. No, it doesn't say that. What Scripture tells us is how we're supposed to act as human beings. Men, it tells us how to be men. Women, it tells us how to act like women. It tells us these things, but it doesn't go, in your dating relationship, you need to do X, Y, and Z. Why? Because dating is a brand new concept. In the history of the world, okay? Now, whether you're a young Earth guy or an old Earth guy, and, you know, some of us that believe that the Earth is 13.7 billion years, if you guys were here at M12 last Monday, you guys will understand that's kind of where I lie on things, but dating came up in the last 100 years. No, scratch that. The last 70 years. So in the history of mankind, we just came up with dating. It just happened. Okay? Before that, the only thing you had was an arranged marriage, where one side would present a dowry, and the other side would present a daughter. And they would agree to terms, and they'd go, you are a... They used to actually use this term. Have you heard, she's a four cow gal? She's a 4-cow girl? Okay, that comes from the dowry statement of, like, that's how much you were worth. Okay, that means you were expensive. That means you were worth the price of 4 cows. So if my son wanted to marry your daughter, I would go, your daughter is a 4-cow kind of girl. So I'd have to pay 4 cows to have your daughter marry my son. And that's what it was. And it didn't matter to you if you liked them or if you guys really got along or if your guys' horoscopes lined up. It was bullcrap. It didn't make a difference. Okay? We talked a little bit about last week is that in Christian circles, we're not called to contractual relationships. We're called to covenant ones. And a covenant is different than a contract in that a contract says, if you, then I will. Or if you don't, then I will stop. But, right, so boyfriend and girlfriend, that's kind of what we enter into is contractual. We should be, okay? Your long-term covenant relationship should be with your spouse. And covenant, the difference between covenant and contract is that a covenant is, what you hear in wedding language, for richer or poor, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, for as long as we both shall live, till death do us part, with the help of God. Okay? So a covenant relationship says, it doesn't matter if you hold up your end of the deal. It doesn't matter if you're good enough, if you do this, if you don't bug me enough. We're just going to get through it. That's covenant. Contract is, if you break your part of it, I break my part of it. Covenant says, you can break your part of it 100-fold, and I'm still in it with you. Okay? Today, we're going to look at this concept. What does it mean to date? Okay? I'm going to take you back to a story. When I was in high school, my little brother, who is actually moving down here in a couple months, which is really exciting. He's going to go to Maritos. He's going to play for the basketball team. He's an animal, okay? So he's 6'5", and, like, he's incredible basketball. He's always been an incredible basketball player. Like, when I say incredible, like, he'll stand underneath the basketball hoop facing this way, and it's right above him, and he'll just go, hey, Chris, watch. This is what he did to me last time I was home. He goes, Chris, watch this. And he just jumped up and he back dunked it. He didn't run or anything, just jumped straight up, put the ball in the hoop, and came back down. And I'm like, you son of a gun. But he's cool. So I started coaching the 6th grade team at my dad is a pastor of a church, and they have a school that's connected to it. So they said, hey, Christopher, based on your vast, expansive knowledge of basketball and your just really good basketball playing skills, I'll go on, but I don't want to take any more time. But there was a long list of things that I was good at. Will you come back and coach basketball? I say that because I really didn't have any kind of basketball history at that point. So I came back and I started coaching his team. So Chandler was in 5th grade, and all of his friends were in 6th grade. He got pulled to the 6th grade team because it just wasn't fair. He was in 5th grade, and my little brother's 6'5". He's like here, and he just looked down on people. He's like, all right, him with Jolly Green Johnny. Oh. That's how he talks too. It's really annoying. You're like, Chandler, shut up. Okay. But he's so much bigger than everyone else. And so there was this kid on the team. His name was Junior. Now, Junior was not a junior. Okay? Junior was not a small human being. He was short in stature, but he was not a small person, if you know what I'm talking about. So Junior, the correct way to shoot a basketball, I don't know if you guys have never been to America before, but you should shoot it like this, okay? You use your elbow, use the follow-through, you bring it over your head. All right, well, these kids showed up the first day of basketball practice, and after I made them run some laps just to get my teenage angst out, they were like, we're ready to start shooting. And I'm like, okay, everyone line up at the free throw line. The first thing we're going to do is the fundamentals, okay? You line up, you box out, we'll start by doing free throws. All right, so there's all this process. So I line up Junior at the free throw line. And Chandler and Junior are looking at each other like, do it, go, show him. And I'm like, what are you guys going to, like, what, should I be worried? What's going on right now? So Junior steps up, and I tell everyone, okay, you want to keep your elbow in, and you want to follow through, and you want to make it look almost like your hand is dipped inside the basketball hoop, and that's a good follow through on a shot. Okay? Well, Junior steps to the line, looks at me in the face, puts the ball between his legs, and goes, and he makes it. And he's all, I'm going to the back of the line. It was like he was done shooting. He had like made his point to me. And I'm like, Junior, that's not how you shoot. And he goes, well, I made a basket. Like, what's the point of basketball if it isn't to make baskets? Right? Isn't that how we get points? I don't know, style points. He goes, hey, coach, I can do this all day long. It's like, Junior, you can't shoot that way. So we go through the line. Chandler's up now, and Chandler's like, boom, nails it. I'm like, you son of a gun. And apparently they've been practicing. They spent every recess period together, and they were going through this. They would line it from all over the court. And because their little scrawny arms couldn't push anything as much as they could hurl it like a catapult. Okay, they used a swinging momentum. And they could be at three-point land, they could be at half court and just whip this thing. Thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So Chandler goes through, they go through, everyone is missing. They're shooting correctly, but they're missing. And they come up and they're like, what's up? They don't even look, right? They're just like, it's in the hole. And so I said, okay, Chandler and Junior, I want you guys to come out in the basketball court right now. So they come out, and I stand probably from this stand to right here away. And the basketball was behind me. And I was like, you made what? 4 free throws in a row? They're like, yeah, we made 4. And he like, period. So I was like, I want you to shoot again. And so he winds up his little thing, and here I am, 3.5 feet away, and I went like this. So they shot it, and it just went, gone. He's like, well, you can't block it. I'm like, in a game, what are you going to do? In a game, you can't walk around and be like, everyone clear out. It's time for me to do my thing. I need, excuse me, sir. Why are you already growing facial hair? Please. This is 6th grade. I need you to not do that. But you guys can't do that. Okay? And here's the thing. In their brain, they had practiced this so much that it had become second nature to them. What they had done over and over and over again is they created this ability in themselves, which was to make granny shots. I said that weird. Granny shots. Granny shots. I put the wrong emphasis in the wrong syllable. That's really my fault. Okay? So they made granny shots. But here's the thing, and here's when it comes to dating relationships. What we think is that marriage is the next step. It's like dating, but you spend all your time together. Much in the way that like our childish brains think that what love is it's likes extreme. Right? The difference between love and like is this. I really like Paige. And then one day we have this really great talk and now I love her. Right? And that's what we think kind of dating is. It's like dating is like this preliminary thing, and then marriage is just it's next level thing. And it has nothing, those two are completely separate. When it comes down to it, we think we're practicing for marriage, but you're not. Because practice doesn't make perfect. That is the most bullcrap phrase ever. Why? Because these guys had practice every single day. But the skills that they learned, the habits that they acquired, the things that they were doing repeatedly that they thought were going to help themselves, ended up being detrimental. And in the meantime, when they could have been working on shooting it correctly, on focusing on this shot, which all their peers were doing, even though they were missing, they could have had a jump start on the way you actually play the game. And that's what we do in dating. We think as long as I'm with someone, I'm learning how to do marriage. If we're dating, we're practicing marriage. But like we just heard in that analogy, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice doesn't make you a better boyfriend or a better husband or a better wife. In fact, its contrary is true. Couples who have lived with each other before being married, their divorce rate jumps 70% above couples who did not live together before they were married. Why? Why is because of that distinguishing understanding right there between a contract and a covenant. When you are in a marriage with someone, what you say is, no matter what, we're getting through this. When you go, hey, let's do our preliminary basis, you guys got to understand this. And God created our brains in such a way that He wants us to have families, and He wants us to make kids. It's the first thing He ever tells us to do. He says, be fruitful and multiply. Okay? Right? I'm doing my job. Okay? You guys take your time, but eventually that'll be your job. Okay? She's pregnant. Thank you very much. Okay? I'm an obedient son of God. What have you done lately? Okay? It's problematic. I probably shouldn't say that kind of stuff. They come in next week, they're like, yes, I did it! No, not what I meant. Not the same thing. So when they live together, what they realize is they're like, oh my gosh, I can bail out of this thing. Well, guess what? In almost every single marriage, you go through a period of time where you're like, I want to bail out of this thing. But you don't. And you don't because you've entered into a covenant. So what relationships are is it's contractual pretending to be married, and the practice that's involved almost 100% of the time is not going to carry over into the game. You might get really good at this thing. You might get really good at X, Y, or Z. You fill in the blank. I'm really, really good at fighting now. Or I'm really, really good at getting my opinion heard. Or I'm really, really good at my boyfriend, whenever he doesn't pay attention to me, I whine about it, and then he comes crawling back to me. I have accomplished that. Please, no, please. Sorry, we started early tonight. It was totally my fault. It's my fault. Just kidding. I thought you guys had prom. Oh no, you got pushed back. Landed your date. I actually figured that out. So, anyway, totally got sidetracked there. But that's what we understand, is you can get good at all this stuff. He goes and he plays basketball and you manipulate him. And you go, I'm not gonna answer when he calls later on because I want him to feel the punishment. Like, I've gotten really good at these things. I'm ready to be married. Because in marriage, when he goes does something I don't want to do, I'm just going to not answer his phone calls. And I'm going to ignore him. And you know what? You've gotten really, really good at something that does not matter at all. So, here's what we're going over. How do we practice well? If I stood up here and I said, it's probably better not to date in high school, you'd all go, screw you. How do I know that? Because I've done it before, and guess what everyone said? Screw you. In fact, I did a series on how you shouldn't date people. At the end of the series, more people were dating than when we started the series. The percentage rose. So I thought, you know what? Instead of fighting the system, what if we just talk about how to do it well? Hold the title well. So, if you have your Bibles, we are going to be in Matthew chapter 5. Matthew is in the New Testament. Towards the back of your Bible, Matthew chapter 5. If you don't know where that is, again, you have a table of contents at the beginning of your Bible. It can tell you where all of your books are, what page number, everything. Matthew chapter 5. Okay, so this is one of Jesus' most famous sermons. And when I say famous, I mean it's written on the outside of courthouses, it's written in public display, it's written on government buildings, different parts of this thing. If you don't have a Bible, Kaylee has them and she'll just throw it at you. If you have one, just raise your hand or give me a little nod or a ding dong. Zoe has them as well, and they'll bring one to you. So, Jesus, I've actually been here in Jerusalem. We got to go tour the Holy Land. Not the, yeah, okay. That's be Vegas. Dude. Okay, here we go. So we're in Jerusalem, and I get to go to the place called the Mount of Olives. Okay, this is called the Sermon on the Mount. It's where Jesus went up on a hillside one day, and there were thousands of people that were sitting there to listen. And he gives this talk. Okay? This talk is also known, it's Matthew chapter 5, known as the Beatitudes. The Beatitudes is a long word for the blessings. Okay, because it starts with this. He starts his talk with, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek." Now, in a civilization dominated by Roman culture, this was completely countercultural. Because when they look around, they say, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek." We talked about meekness last week. "For they will inherit the earth." And everything that they've learned growing up is, "Blessed are the powerful, for they will dominate the world. Blessed are the strong. Blessed are the courageous in themselves. Blessed are the prideful, for they will govern everyone." And Jesus goes, no. Yeah, maybe here, maybe right now, but that's not the kingdom that I'm talking about. My kingdom is forever. So after giving all these things, that these earth-shattering, brand new ideas, blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Again, Roman culture is, if you're guilty, we will kill you back. You understand that? Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness. Then in verse 13 he says this. And it's almost like a break in the story. And the cool thing you need to know about this story is that he gives it on the side of a mountain, and across there's a huge lake called the Sea of Galilee. Well, I guess it's more of a sea than a lake, but it's contained on all sides, so I guess it technically qualifies as a lake. On the other side is called the Decapolis, the 10 cities. It's this huge glowing, and at night you can just see there's just this ambient light. Even back then, the Decapolis was the center of trade, of commerce, of all sorts of shenanigans that were going on at nighttime. And you can just see this glow, this light that came from the whole place. So he stops in the middle of it. And that's why I think this probably happened at night, because this is what he says in verse 13. "You are the salt of the earth." He's talking to you guys, Christians. "But if a salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It's no longer good for anything, except to be thrown out and trampled by men. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden." Okay, so again, this is Jesus going, see that city right there? You couldn't hide it if you wanted to. It's glowing. It's got an ambient light to it. All the goings on of that, they're just reflective all over this whole valley. You can't hide it if you wanted to. People, Christians, this is what you're supposed to be. You got to be the light of the world. You got to be the salt of the world. Okay, and when we think salt, we go, that's something that I put on my food, my macaroni and cheese, when my mom's not looking, because I put a little bit more. And when that, you ever done that before? Your mom's like, "It's got plenty of salt on it, doesn't need any more." And you're like, "It could always use some more salt." Because today, it's become almost primarily for the sake of seasoning. That's what we think salt is for. In that day and age, when he said something is the salt of the world, it carried a connotation that goes beyond our understanding of it. This is what salt does. 3 things. That's what we're going to talk about with relationships. Because the Bible is mute on relationships. It doesn't talk about boyfriend and girlfriend, because that was such a different concept. It was, "Marshall, you're marrying Tess." See, thank you. I don't know why you're from the South all of a sudden. You can just be you. And you had no say in it. You just dealt with it. My family, your family got along. I think you guys would be good breeding stock. You guys are together. That's the way it is. Okay? Haley, don't encourage that. Okay? They're not even married. Gross. Okay? Here we go. So here's what salt is good for. And this is what we're going to go off of. It has 3 jobs: to disinfect, to preserve, and to flavor. Those are the 3 things that it does. It disinfects, it preserves, and it brings flavor. It flavors. To use the verb form. It flavors. Okay, so when you ask me, hey, how do I have a good relationship? How do I be in relationship well? Well, here's what Jesus says. When Jesus talks to us, he says, here's what you have to do. You have to be salt. In your relationships, here's your job. You have to do 3 things. You need to disinfect, you need to preserve, and you need to flavor. What is your job as a boyfriend? You need to disinfect, you need to preserve, you need to flavor. What's your job as a girlfriend? Disinfect, preserve, and flavor. What does that mean? Okay, so I came up with this. Disinfect. Okay, what's the infection of relationships? There's an overlying infection that permeates and pervades almost every high school, college age, young adult, junior high relationship. And that is that it has these lies. It has these overarching lies that we tell ourselves and that we tell one another. Your job as Christians, as light of the world, as salt of the earth, your job is to disinfect. It is to take those lies and live a life that says, that is not going to be an infection in my relationship. Here's these lies. I wrote a few of them down. One of the lies that we're supposed to disinfect is that we are called to find the one. I need to find the one. He's the one. Where is the one? I need the one. Where's the one? I need my soulmate. Okay? And you don't have to do philosophy or anything else like that. You have to do basic math. The reason that the one doesn't work out is, if you think about it, if we were each called to marry one person, and that was our soulmate, if, let's say, PJ marries the wrong girl, the whole system is screwed up. Because that means PJ marries Christian's girl, and that means that Bobby marries Christian's girl, and that means that Landon marries Bobby's girl, and that means that EJ marries Landon. So it's a process that goes on and on and on and on and on ad infinitum, ad nauseum. Okay, so that's the essence of it. There's not one. You have to disinfect this idea. And the infection is because of this. Here's why we love this. Here's why pop culture loves this phrase, have you found the one? Because it takes all responsibility off of me and onto everybody else. What does that mean? Here's what that means. That means if I'm looking for the one and we don't work out, guess whose fault it is? Yours. Why? Because you're not the one. So I go over here and I'm like, Andre, he must be the one. And it doesn't work out, and I go, I guess I didn't find the one. And all along, I bring my baggage and my hurt and my brokenness and my personal quote-unquote infection, which is I have pride, into my relationships, but I blame it on everyone else because you're not the one. And we wonder why marriages don't work. And so you enter into a marriage, and then after 3 months of absolute honeymoon phase, she for the first time goes, hey, can you clean up your stuff? And you're like, the one would never call me to clean things up. You're not the one. And so instead of becoming reflective and going, how can I become the person that I want to be? We go, I need to find the person to be with. And God's going, no, that's not your job. Your job isn't finding. Salt doesn't seek things out. Salt doesn't play hide and seek. Salt doesn't pursue. It disinfects. And that disinfection is the lie that we tell ourselves. Which is we need to find the one. Another lie is this. We talked about it before, but I am practicing for marriage. Okay, and that's what we talked about before. Only great practice carries on over into marriage. More often than not, the reason that we are slightly anti-relationship here is because more often than not, I'm becoming repetitive, is you carry on bad habits. Okay, you guys have met people in your life that always are in a relationship with someone. It's like they fall out and they get into something new. And they fall out of it and they get into something new. And so they shop for people like they shop for groceries or CDs or whatever it might be, which is, if you don't have what it takes, I move on to the next thing. Inevitably, the person you marry will not have everything that you want. It's the way that it goes. But the habit that we've learned, the practice that we've learned is, if it doesn't fit me, I move on. And guys, that's not what marriage is about. The fact that divorce is on the table in relationships and it's not in marriage means that you cannot feasibly practice for marriage while still having divorce on the table in a relationship. Those two do not go hand in hand. And number 3 on that one, the disinfect. If it's right, we're going to fall in love. If it's right, we're going to fall in love. You're going to fall in love, and we're just going to make eye contact, and we're going to do all these crazy, lovey things, and then it's just going to be the greatest thing in the history of the world. Okay, so the idea there is that we're meant to be together. It fell down in the stars, and then it's love at first sight, and the more that we hang out, the more that we're going to fall in love with one another. Okay, but here's something you need to know about love. Love is a workful, effortful experience. It's an act of the will. Okay? It's purposeful. Love takes courage. And here's why some people, you're not ready for love or anything else or anything of significance. It's because you're not a courageous person. Courage is born in self-trust. Okay? The reason people have courage is because they trust themselves. They've walked through crap. They've found out that I still breathe. That induces courage. My mom and dad got a divorce. Mine didn't. I'm just third party. My mom and dad got a divorce. I'm still here. That breeds self-trust. I didn't think I'd get through this thing, and I got through it. I developed self-trust. I thought this was going to be the end of me, and I'm still here. I developed self-trust. And self-trust, then all of a sudden you have this idea of yourself, and you're like, you know what, I can do this. I'm okay in and of myself, and that's when love is ready. Love requires courage. It's an effortful act of the will that requires work and courage. And if you're like, well, I'm looking for that right person, you're not developing courage, you're not developing self-trust, because you only develop trust in somebody else. And that is the most dangerous place you can be. I trust them fully. That's not good. You have to be able to trust yourself too. Because when homie G or homie L leaves, what are you stuck with? All your trust, your self-fulfillment, your self-worth goes out the door with them. Okay? We have to disinfect. Number 2, we have to preserve. And we're going to have to race through these last 2. Preserve. Your goal as a boyfriend should be to ruin all boys for that person from now on. You should ruin it. What do I mean by ruin it? I mean that you guys have this relationship where they respected you and they loved you and he was courteous and he was chivalrous. And what he did is then when you guys went away to college for different things, she walks around campus and these hood rats all walk up on her and she's like, no, are you out of your mind? Get away from me. You've ruined men for her. That is the highest compliment that anyone can give you. Is you ruined men for me in a positive way. Not like, you got her pregnant, you're like, peace. She's like, I hate guys. You're like, that's what Chris said I should do. No, it's that the standard, the bar has been set so high from the way that you treated her that every other guy pales in comparison. That's a gift you give to another human being. Girls, you do the same thing. You should set the bar so high that you've handed them a gift. You've sensitized in their life that they're worth something more than they thought that they would ever be worth. You've sensitized them to the girl that walks up and she's like, hi, and like all her junk's hanging out, and you're like, there's nothing even, I don't have to use my imagination because everything's out. And she's like, I think that you're hot. And that guy's going to go, no, you scrub, walk away. And when he's walking away, he's going to go, thank God for Julie, or whatever it is. The girl who taught him that a woman can be respectful, can be loving, can be kind, can be compassionate. Your goal is to ruin the opposite gender for your significant other in the best way possible. And you're like, well, what if it happens? Okay, try. That's really not the problem that people are having these days. Okay, that's not the problem. It's its antithesis. Preserve. And this is a pastor thing to say, and I understand that, but you're in church. So preserving means you have to preserve the relationship with Christ. You should always be pushing them towards Jesus. So you disinfect those lies that there's only one person. Okay, the lies that say, I'm practicing for marriage. If it's right, then we're going to fall in love. You have to preserve. You should preserve the fact that all guys or girls, based on their gender, should be ruined for them from now on. You should treat them with kindness, with respect, with dignity. Proverbs 31 verse 10 says this, and it's one of the most beautiful phrases in all of Scripture. It says, an excellent wife who can find? It's almost Shakespearean in its simplicity, but its duplicity also in its genius, which is that short phrase, an excellent wife who can find one. That's the plea of Solomon. Solomon had 10,000 concubines. Hundreds and hundreds of quote-unquote wives, thousands of women that he slept with. And he pens this phrase, an excellent woman, who can find one? He's yearning for that. He's going, I don't even see one. And I see there's 1,000, and they all want me. And I'm asking this question, where am I going to find one? You should always push them towards Jesus. Here's a little sidetrack on that thing, and this is a good way to check yourselves in your relationships. If your relationship takes out of you a desire to get to know Christ better, or to be in church, or to be in a community, then that should be a huge red flag. Huge red flag. Because you have accidentally, maybe on purpose, placed them in a position where God is supposed to be. If part of your yearning for God, part of your passion for Christ has been squelched in your relationship, it's because you have put them where He is supposed to be. A healthy relationship should simultaneously be passionate about the other person, about their growth and their well-being, and simultaneously passionate about Christ. If I lose my passion for Christ, it's because I have made them God. I seek them. Why haven't you been in church today? Well, I've just been hanging out with my boyfriend. That's not the same thing as being with God. And we say it before, and I'll say it again. Whatever you idolize, that means to make God in your life. That isn't God. Whatever you idolize, you will ultimately demonize. Yeah, you want to put her as number one in your life? Guess what's going to happen? She is not going to live up to it, and you are going to be pissed. You're going to go, but you were God. And I don't mean God as in you created the heavens and the earth. I mean you were that which nothing else was more important than in my life. That is what a God is. Last but not least, you got a flavor. Flav. Speaking of a man of high integrity, he always knew what time it was. He wore a big clock around his neck. Have you guys ever seen it? I mean, can I catch it? Is it an oil painting or is, I mean, come on. Please, just go with me on this one. Flavor. That means, in a relationship, one of your goals is to not bring someone's life down. It isn't to make your life more interesting because they're in your life. It is to simply flavor their life. Positively flavor their life. That is your goal. Okay? More often than not, though, we get situations where it's like you have this ball and chain attached to you and it's like dragging you down. You get this guy that's like, oh, and he's like dragging, he's like, it's like, what's wrong with you? I'm in a relationship. Oh, and dragging behind is this woman that's like, why don't you ever buy my number? How don't you ever do this? How come you never make me food? Where's the nearest Taco Bell? And this guy's like, I'm doing the right thing. I'm practicing for marriage. Oh, this is what it's going to be like for the next 60 years of my life. It doesn't have to be like that. Okay? But here's the thing. Great marriages are super boring. You would not watch. You might because you know me personally. But you'd never get good ratings if you put Pages and I's marriage on a reality TV show. No one would watch it. Because our biggest problem is like, hey, you used my toothbrush 3 days ago. Oh, I keep forgetting. I thought mine was the purple one, but yours is the purple one, mine's the blue one. Yeah. That would be like the teaser trailer for our reality TV show series. You'd be like, what's going to happen next week? Are they going to use the same one again? Is he going to forget which one's purple and which one's blue? What are they going to do? And I think I said this actually last week, but no, I said it at ElevenTwelve. If at this point in your life, they're talking to you the way that you would let no one else in your life talk to you, you need not be with them. It astonishes me. I'll be walking around with like a group, like after we'll do an event, we'll leave late, and a girl will talk to me and be like, I told you not to do that. And I'm like, holy crap. If my wife ever spoke to me like that, we would have a 4-hour-long conversation on what's wrong with you. It would go for a long time. Right? Or if she was ever talking, I was like, shut up, you're dumb. Like, we would have a large weekend-long issue. Because we don't talk like that to each other. But you think, a lot of relationships think, well, he's my boyfriend, we've been together for a long time. I don't care, 60 years, I will never be spoken to like that. And she will never, I will never speak to her like that, and she will never speak to me like that. So what we do married, you don't do it. And you think, oh, well, it's cute because I know him so well and we're really comfortable with each other, so I can tell him to shut up, I can tell him he's stupid. It's like, no, that's unhealthy. You don't do that. Okay? Because then you're around your whole family around dinner table and it's 3 years and your kid's sitting there and then your husband goes, shut up, you're stupid. And you're like, everyone just keep eating. How's the hands? I hate my life. Okay? It's like, you don't do it. We think soap operas are good. We should be flavoring each other's lives. We should bring positivity to each other's lives. We should be encouraging one another. We should be saying, you are a great person. We should be building up their personal self-worth. That's what your relationship is about right now. I am going to, however I can, grow you closer in your life, closer to Christ, and closer to who you want to become. That's the goal of relationship. And to ruin the opposite gender for them for the rest of your life. To disinfect the lies. To preserve them in every reasonable sense of the word. And to flavor it. Soap opera relationships are not good relationships. If you fight every day and get over it, you're not healthy. Okay? That's bad. A fight should come up every once in a while when there is a small misunderstanding. And when I say fight, I mean you have a discussion about it. If you're fighting all the time, it's not cute and it's not good. It's bad. Okay? Just because you can get through it doesn't mean it's okay. Now, when you're in a marriage, no choice. Too bad. You signed the papers. You can have the sex, but you have to stay in it. Okay? That's like the trade-off right there. You see how that works? Okay? So you're like, yeah, one side, other side. Hey, that's what every guy in here is like, that's not what I think about marriage. I don't think that's, it's crazy. I just want to be able to live with my best friend. No, you want to have sex. You signed up for it. JJ, calm down. Okay? JJ's like, I hate you. Sorry. That's our goal. That's your type. That's how you hold a relationship well. You become the salt that Christ has called you to be. You disinfect those lies. You preserve the other person. You ruin the opposite gender for them by treating them with the utmost kindness, respect, with encouragement. And you flavor their life. You bring them joy, not pain. You bring them peace, not turmoil. You push them towards Christ. You don't pull them away from it. And if they have satisfied a need in you for a higher power, you have to see the math right there, which is you have made them the higher power. It doesn't have to be born out of a Bible to be a God. Anything which nothing else is greater than your life is your God. That is how we hold this title well. And next week we're going to talk about being a husband and a wife and how that covenant then carries over from the contract you're in right now. But some of you need to breach contract. If you're talked to that way, or those things don't resemble themselves in your relationships, that it has nothing to do with disinfecting or preserving or the other thing that I said, flavoring. I don't forget that. Ruins that one. You need to get out of it because you're not in a covenant yet. It's okay to breach contract. You have to get healthy first. You have to become before you pursue. Salt has these responsibilities. Salt's main job isn't finding someone who completes them. It is, no matter where it is, a light is always lighting no matter what the situation is. And until you're a salt that always disinfects, always preserves, and always flavors, you're not ready to be in a relationship. That is how we hold that title up. So, I know that next week we'll be talking about being a husband and a wife. And then the next weekend you guys have your little prom. And then we only have one weekend left together, seniors. And we're going to be talking about death and legacy. Because you're pretty much dying to me. You're all dead to me. It's how I cope. Okay, so, reminder, Monday night is the last M12. 7 to 9 p.m. in this room. It's rated R M12. We're going over sex, all that other stuff with sexual sex. And then Wednesday night is grad dessert. Seniors, make sure that you're there. 7 to 9 p.m. Bring your families. Dress nicely. It's going to be awesome. It's tradition year 11-12. And then Delta. Sign-ups are live now. Make sure you're that. If you have any questions, talk to me. If not, we'll see you guys Monday.